Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I want to show you guys how to draft a pencil skirt. So to do that, you need the following measurements: skirt length, hip depth, waist circumference, hip circumference, and band height. The band for this skirt is a fitted band and it's going to be adapted from the skirt itself. So you're going to be drawing a rectangular shape like this one. The width of the rectangle is going to be determined by the hip circumference. As you can see on this little chart I have on the table, the width is hip circumference divided by 2 plus 2 inches for seam allowance. Okay, so 30 divided by 2 plus 2 is equal to 21. So this is 21 inches. And then the length is going to be determined by the skirt length plus 1 inch. So the skirt length we're using is 24 inches plus 1 inch, that makes it 25 inches. So from the top line, just measure and mark 25 inches and then draw your line. So you're going to split this rectangle into 2 equal halves like I've done. So this is front back, this is center front here, this is also the center back, and the middle line is the side seam. So next I'm going to measure and mark the hip depth. So from the top line, which is also the waistline, I'll measure and mark 8 inches for hip depth. Measure and mark this on at least 2 or 3 points so that you can have a straight line. So with my ruler, I'm going to connect the points together. Next here, I'm going to impute the skirt length, 24 inches. So from the waistline, I'll just measure and mark 24 inches. Okay, I'll also connect the points together. For the top line is the waistline, hip line, hem line. Starting with the front, on the waistline from the center front, we're going to measure and mark quarter of waist circumference plus 1 inch for that intake. So quarter of waist circumference is 6.25 plus 1 inch, 7.25 or 7 1/4. On the hip line, we're going to mark quarter of hip circumference, which is 9.5 inches. On the hemline, you have the option of marking either the hip measurement or hip measurement minus 1. So in this tutorial, it's hip measurement minus 1. So that's 8.5 on the hemline. So first, I'm going to connect hip to the hem to draw that side line. And then I'm going to connect hip to the waistline using the hip curve to imitate the curve of the hip. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to impute the dot. So for that, measure the waist and mark the midpoint. The midpoint of 7 1/4 is 3 5/8. Yep. So from the midpoint, square a line that is 5 inches long. Square a line down. The length of this line should be 5 inches. Okay, so that signifies the point of the dot. So from the point of the dot, next thing I'm going to impute the dot intake, which is 1 inch. So I'll do 0.5 on both sides of the line. And then with my ruler, I'll connect those points to draw my dart legs. So your dart is going to look like this. The next thing for the front is we're going to be modifying the waistline. So from the center front, mark 1 inch down from the waist. With your hip curve, draw a gentle curve from the side of the waist to the center front at that 1 inch mark. So it's going to look like this. Your waistline is no longer straight but curved. Okay, you can see it's curved now. So with this, we can move to the back for now. So coming to the back, the first thing we're going to do is on the waistline, from the center back, mark 1 inch in, like I'm doing, and then connect to the hip line at the center back to draw a slanted line. We are modifying the zipper allowance from the waist to the hip to accommodate for the curve of the spine. So this slanted line, we're going to extend the slanted line above the waistline. The reason why we're extending it is because of the bum. Okay, so this extension is about 1.5 inches above the waistline. So from this 1.5 inches, we're going to measure and mark quarter of waist circumference plus 1 inch for dart intake. Okay, so from here we're going to measure and mark it till it touches the original waistline. So I like to use my ruler, so that's 7.25. I like to use my ruler so I can mark it like this and then draw the line at the same time. So you can see the raised waistline, so that when you sit down, the skirt is not exposing your underwears. That's why we are raising the back waistline. So on the hip line, we're doing quarter of hip circumference, 9.5. On the hem line, we're doing quarter of hip circumference minus 1 inch, so that's 8.5. So like we did in the front, I'm going to connect the points. So from the hip to the hem, I'll draw the side line. And then from the hip to the waist, I'm going to draw the side line using the hip curve. Just like that. So the next, for the dart, just like we did in the front, measure the waistline at the back, mark the center point. So from the center point, resist the urge to take your ruler and just draw a straight line. No, you don't want to do this. Okay, you want to square your line from that point. So you need a square like this. Okay, so to square up your line, place it so that you see that flat part of that square is resting on the line straight up, and then square downwards. Because if you draw a line randomly, by the time you finish sewing the skirt, your dart is going to appear slanted. Okay, so in so doing, we square down the line. By the time you're done sewing like this, the dart is going to appear straight because the line was squared. So you can see me marking my dart legs. Okay, so for the zipper allowance, you're going to extend the hip line. You're also going to extend the hem line beyond the zipper allowance line or the center back line. So zipper allowance is 1 inch, so see me doing 1 inch on the hem, 1 inch on the hip. So I'll connect the hip to the hem using my ruler. And then from the hip, I'll connect it to the waist. So you remember we already came in by 1 inch at the waistline, so I'll connect it to that point. okay, just like this. So your zipper allowance is slanted from the waist, then from the hip straight down, like so. So on the waistline, just take your ruler, place it so that it follows the line of the waistline, and then complete it into the zipper allowance, just like that. Simple as ABC. So this is how the back looks like. Now I'm going to separate both patterns from the middle line. So in order to do the band for the skirt, I'm going to fold in the dart. This is the front skirt. I'm folding in the dart. So fold one dart leg to rest on top of the other dart leg. Your paper is going to bunch up, yes, because you are folding in the dart. So tape it down like this. After taping it down, I want you to observe something along the waistline. You see, this is coming here and terminates at the middle, and this is also coming from the center, terminates, but they do not meet at the center point. So you take your hip curve and through that waistline, okay, through the waistline, make sure the hip curve touches both lines, just like I'm illustrating for you. Pay attention, and you through the waistline. So this is your new waistline. You through the waistline to align together. The next is we're going to impute the band measurement, which is 2 inches. So from the waistline, measure and mark 2 inches down. Since the band is curved, I suggest you mark the band measurements at more than 3 points, like I'm doing. Okay, as you can see, I've marked it at almost 6 points thereabout. So just connect the points together like I'm doing. Bam! This is the front band. Label it like so. So after doing this on the front, I'm going to add 0.5 seam allowance over here, 0.5 at the side, and 1 inch at the hem. I know some of you sew with 1 inch at the side, so you can do 1 inch at the side. Now it's time to cut out. So starting with the band at the top here, I'm going to cut. So I just trim off the excess away from the band. So the dart on the band, leave it folded in, okay? Do not unfold the band on the dart on the band, okay? You can unfold the dart on the skirt. So that is the amount of dart you'll be sewing in. Now cut out the excess from the side seam. So this is how it is. So add 0.5 here and add 0.5 here, okay? Now to the back, you're also going to do the same thing. Fold the dart, tape it down. But on the back, however, the lines match, so there will be no need to through the lines. So I'll just move straight up to my band. So I'll start imputing my band measurement, 2 inches around the waistline at the back. So with my hip curve, I'm also going to draw the band for the back. I intentionally let the line for the band extend beyond the side seam so that when I'm adding side seam, that line cuts through it. So I'm going to add seam allowance. So this is front, this is the back. Don't forget to add seam allowance down here on the band and also on the skirt. Then this is the amount of darts you'll be sewing on the skirt. Do not undo the darts on the bands. Cut out the bands like that. So I hope you found this video helpful. Like, share, subscribe. Stay tuned for future videos. Bye for now. I'm La Contra.